Chris Duffin at Elite Performance Center, and today we're going to talk about hip thrusters. Now first, a little bit of caveat. I might be a little bit winded during some of the discussions and also pretty jacked up on caffeine because I'm in the middle of a workout. And you may be asking yourself, Chris, if you want to be taken seriously, you know, where is the fancy PowerPoint slide, the finely crafted article to go with this, or even hell, why don't you script this stuff or even go off some notes? And the thing is, you know, I'm not some young personal trainer, author, blogger, whoever that's trying to make a name for themselves so they can generate some revenue in the industry. That's not me. I've been in this game for a long time. This is secondary to me. And why? Because I've been successful. Successful with my lifting, successful with my coaching, successful in life in general. So it leaves me to a point of I've got limited time. But I love doing this. I love sharing knowledge. It's actually what I do for a living, is coaching and motivating and getting the best out of people. So that's why I do this. I do this out of passion, not because I'm somebody, you know, that's trying to make a name for themselves out there to sell their training, sell their devices, you know, whatever it may be. So this is the only way I can fit it into my schedule. So that said, we're going to talk about hip thrusters and general glute development. Hopefully a little bit more time on glute development than dissing hip thrusters. But hip thrusters, I actually love them. I know I just said we're going to diss them, but I love them. It's a great cueing movement. So really good. You could see me doing something like that if you ever watch my video on glute activation warm-up. I'm very big on movement patterns and trying to ingrain those and get everything firing properly before you go train heavy. And that's something that I would rotate in, body weight or with light movement. But once we get to doing heavy weighted hip thrusters for glute development, not only do I think it's not beneficial in carrying over to the core movements and movement patterns needed, I think it can actually be detrimental. And I believe that based off of, one, my own experience and what I see in other people that are using those heavily or promoting that. So we're going to go into depth in that. But first, I got to get a few sets in. All right. We're shooting this video because a coach I know and highly respect asked for my input on this subject. He's a little bit more on the clinical side of the practice than myself, but you know, I'm the guy on the platform putting it together for his weights. So we're going to cover first some fact, and then we're going to cover theory. So I'm going to do a deadlift here with some good glute firing. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. The next one's going to be slow because I've really got to think about how to do this wrong. Notice I'm slightly unhinged here at the top. Glutes fired late, hope you saw that. But a simple fact is I'm unhinged and my glutes are not firing to the optimal level. Anytime you see anybody standing like this, you know for a fact the glutes can't be firing properly. So to finish with full glute activation, it's going to look like this. Not like this, and not like this. So, boom, right here, standing tall. You can see the exact same thing on squatting. So, standing erect, solid. I'm going to get my full glute activation. We're going to talk about how. Or I could start like this. Bars a little bit forward, unhinged, and all my reps in between are going to be kind of like this. Not firing optimally. That's fact. Now, why is that? Well, the difference is I'm firing. Am I too close to the camera here? No. Okay. So it's all about, you know, we're working the glutes, but it's not just the glutes. To fully activate them, understand it's a system, not a muscle group. We're not doing concentration curls here, okay? So how does that system work? Well, the glutes are working towards hip extension. But as this comes into play, this integrates with spinal stabilization and also how your hip flexors are working. Quads come a little bit in play as well. So as I get into here, boom, I've got to be firing early and all the way through to this motion. As soon as I load a hip thruster, all right, ready? Yep. So if I'm using this as a cueing movement, boom, I can get full hip extension, tie in the spine, nice neutral spine, getting the spinal stabilizers activated correctly, firing all the way through. Quads are a little bit activated as well. Glutes are firing hard. Now, glutes may be firing hard as soon as I put 3, 4, 5, 800 pounds, whatever on here, okay? But you're never going to get that full hip extension. Boom. It's going to be, even if you think you're all the way like this, you're not. I mean, there's a significant amount of leverage that comes into getting that full lockout in here. And through the motion, my belief is unless you're firing through to that position, you're not working that recruitment pattern effectively. And that's actually caved a little bit during the movement. It's going to destabilize the spine. There's a whole lot of things that are changing that movement. And that's why you're not going to get that carryover. So even if the movement looks the same, just like the deadlift, very minute change. But if you're training the deadlift in that fashion, the second one I represented, you're not going to be getting the same training effect on the glutes. Same as on that thruster. You're not going to get, think about it as a system, not as a muscle group. That system isn't firing as correct. With that loaded weight, we're going to be a little bit extended. There's going to be a number of things that happen that change this to finish in this position, which is not the same as here. It's also very important, in my mind, that you're initiating to this final movement through the lift. So the question remains, okay, how do we develop the deadlift? Sorry, not. How do we develop the glutes? And the primary way that we do that here at APC is we do movements that allow you to finish in this full position. Now, if you want to load the hips separately, just like what we're doing in the thruster, you can, and we do that. Not as a regular basis, but that may be something that you'll see some of us do. And typically, we'll still be doing something in a standing position with a band hooked around our waist. So I'm going to show you a few of those. So first, I'm going to show you just the primary method that we would try to target the glutes. This is in addition to training the primary lifts. So of course, we do glute ham raises and stuff like that. But we're gonna focus. I really like RDL movements. So you'll find me doing those with just straight weight, but also some variations. So we do speed RDLs against bands, usually high rep content, around 20 reps. Also do RDLs with dumbbells. So both the band assisted and the dumbbell ones, usually I like to load the band tension on here so it kicks in more towards the top where you're trying to finish through. But it's very important that you actually finish through on these movements. Otherwise, we're not getting that effect. And fire early with the glutes to get that effect. So typically we do use a lighter weight. Like with this, I may only have a plate and a quarter, something like that on there for most people. And they're going to look something like this. Notice this tight finish position. Smacking that bar there. Very fast, high rep. So that's a good one. The dumbbell one, I'll wrap the band over my feet and on my neck, but very low, actually on the traps, because you don't want to shear on that neck forward, so you want it to be down here. And same thing, boom, kicks in harder, but you have to make sure to finish. Now, we're going to show a couple variations of another RDL or Ukrainian deadlift. We're going to do what's called a Ukrainian deadlift. I'm going to stand on these benches and grab the kettlebell between me. Looks very similar to an RDL except wide stance. But here we've added this band around the waist, and it's going to be pulling on those hips, and it's really going to force me to fire those glutes all the way through. You say, well, that looks really damn similar to a loaded hip thruster. But again, we're doing this from a standing position, which is allowing me to fire all the way through and not have that significant level of force fighting against hip extension. It's a little bit it's going to overwork it. Again, we do these in the higher rep range. We call it a Ukrainian stallion because, well, just to think about the motion. Anytime at EPC we add a band around the hip similar to this, we do this with like kneeling squats and things like that. We add the stallion because it's, I don't know, it's a bit graphic, but you know, that's what we're trying to think about is firing all the way through. Deep, get those hips deep. So, so the stallion has no horse reference, it's a other reference. So anyway, here we're fire down, boom, through. Again, you have to focus all the way at the top, all the way through. I'm squeezing twisting the floor apart here. And these glutes are firing hard right now, just standing here in this position. So I'm only going to do a few reps because these benches are on concrete. It might slide around on me. No need to hurt myself. Boom. So this Ukrainian stallion is a really great one if someone's lacking in that area. But again, you notice they're all very similar. We're doing a lot of standing movements. We're able to drive that force all the way through the floor, work this hip extension all the way through the motion, and fire through to complete. Getting neutral spine, deep spinal stabilizers activated, hip flexors, glutes, everything fired through into this neutral position, force firing through the floor. So that allows us to activate those glutes fully and in a manner that carries over to the squat and deadlift. So there's people that are glute gurus, promote glute devices similar to what we're talking about, but watch their lifts. And they're exactly like I'm saying that they would look like. Squats, pulls, late firing on the deadlift. If those same people were in my gym, they would be targets that I would be working with on glute firing patterns because there is an issue.
To subscribe to my YouTube channel and check out my website, kabukiwarrior.com.